Welcome to Thaddaus Dawson Speaks, where liberation meets valuation and soul meets soil. Today, we are honored to have Mr. David L. Head. I was introduced to David several months ago, and we didn't really connect or follow up. But I was blessed to start off this holiday season with David in Michigan, and was able to spend some time with him, his lovely wife. He hosted us, me, and I was able to spend some time with Joyce Jennings and her beautiful daughters. It was just a really a great meeting to be able to meet these fine individuals working on their various projects in Michigan, and I was happy to be a part of it. And David is a retired bus driver. He's a historian. He's an author. He has some fantastic material that he sells, and he does presentations on history. I could have just sat there and talked to him for another couple of weeks, but unfortunately I had to go. But fortunately enough for me, he loaded me down with a lot of reading materials, a lot of history, and a lot of connectivity. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. David L. Head. Let me just tell you a little bit more about David. He wrote a book, and I'm going to hold the book up here. This is a book, and it's about Mr. Granville T. Woods, and it's African American communications and transportation pioneer. So while David was driving the train and driving the bus, I guess in between stops he was doing a lot of reading and research. And what Mr. Granville T. Woods did was a number of inventions that nobody is aware of, but David is vastly making folks aware of. So again, this is more of some of the things that David blessed me with while I was there. He blessed me with so much stuff I had to buy some additional luggage just so I could get back home. I learned a lot. This is the book that he co-authored, Rewriting Negroes in Michigan History, by Mr. Green. So, David, this was a wonderful trip for me, and just another extreme opportunity in this journey that I find myself on, talking about heirs property, legacy, its impact, value, and your work has just been phenomenal in the Michigan area. And why that's so significant is because a lot of folks migrated from the plantation in the South to the plant in the North. So transferring and building a lot of wealth that's been in danger. So we talk about not only the history, but solutions, but you definitely have the history, and it needs to be brought forth. I want you to, as soon as I shut up, I want you to jump in, tell us about yourself. Also, I don't want you to forget your work around Jubilee and Carter G. Woodson. I know I'm saying a lot. I want to hurry up and finish so the folks can hear from you. So without further ado, Mr. David Head.
Grand Rising, Brother Thaddaus Dawson. Thank you for the opportunity to come on your show so suddenly. And Happy New Year. I didn't think I was going to come on so suddenly. You're a man of your word. And there was a lot of great synergy in the room with me, you, and Joyce. She's such a strong advocate, and so are you. And I was blessed to meet you, and we was blessed to get together in person. That Zoom thing has a purpose, but it's nothing like coming together live so I can see you, you can see my reaction more clearly, and things have a way of just spontaneously happening. And that's what basically happened. I was able to just run off into my space and my purpose and hear what you had to say. And Joyce was basically the linchpin of that. And I want to thank Joyce Jenkins, if she's listening right now, for bringing us together. Yes.
Well, it was a pleasure and an honor, and I learned so much. And again, I learned about Mr. Granville T. Woods and all of his inventions on modernizing and
Right. Mhm.
advancing transportation. And then it's kind of
Yeah.
ironic that a black man helped evolve transportation, but then that same transportation that he helped evolve was partially responsible for destroying and dividing the black community with the Highway and Transportation Department, destroying over 1,260 black communities across the country, utilizing urban renewal.
Hmm.
Again, we talk about wealth and its impact in our heirs' property and reconsideration of value. And it's amazing how many different directions this thing goes and turns and how it is able to impact us. But what I want you to hit on or talk about, we talked about as well, is this is the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. However, black folks have only been free supposedly since 1865. And then this is also the 100th anniversary, or it will be, of Black History Month, which started off as Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson. So, and I know that also speaks to, this is also the 100th year of Jubilee, and you participate in all of those different events and activities and speak to the history of it as well as the history of transportation. So, can you
Okay.
elaborate on that for
Okay.
us?
Yes. First, let me share the Granville T. Woods project, which is basically the flagship project for my foundation. It's not just a book. Granville T. Woods is a microcosm of the contributions that African Americans have made to society with their mind. I'm not talking about athletes and entertainers, but with their minds in the growth, development, and wealth of this nation and beyond. He's just one person, and there's so many more. They used to call me a bus driver driven by my roots, and I am. When I was working for the Transit Authority, I drove a bus for a living, but my purpose in life is sharing our history in creative, multiple ways to let people know who we are for all ages. And so the Granville T. Woods Project was the opening bell for that. My belief is that we shouldn't just dwell on the negative. We need to know the negative, and that's been going on since American inception and beyond that. But we need to move on the positive. Moving on the positive is the key thing. And I'd like to share that as we move forward in the discussion, moving together on the positive. Even though we are aware of the negative, we should be putting things in place
But
in
also
a positive, constructive way.
with that awareness is what you bring that I found so fascinating was the history, and the history that's not
Yeah.
told, or the history that's been buried. And as today, as they are actively destroying history and not recording it and distorting it, and it needs to be uplifted and the stories need to be told. And uh,
Yes.
I would love for folks to know who Granville T. Woods is and what it is that he did that had so driven
Okay.
and moved you.
Well, what really moved me was joining the Black History Committee. I always loved history, but it became more intentional. It was more an objective regarding a theme, a program, the speakers, putting in place all those things. And I have a love to do that even today. Uh, Granville T. Woods, when I was watching a PBS documentary, they spoke about the contributions by so many people, but I didn't. I said, "What did we do?" They didn't have anything on blacks, and I'm like, "Wow." When I was a child growing up in school, there was no sense of belonging in a classroom setting when they spoke about history, and I was saying, "Well, maybe black people didn't do anything, and we're inferior." As a child, and so I began to learn more about that. There's Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History Month. We'll speak about him more thoroughly later. He said there's two ways to receive an education. One is given to you, the other you give to yourself. So I began giving myself an education. And when I joined the Black History Committee, I hit the ground running. And that world open up even more wider, and I found a purpose and direction by writing something every year for the rank and file, for simply for our Black History celebration. and I wrote something called The African Presence in Transportation that shares our history going back to Africa before we came to America. And when I got into the inventor section, I noticed a genius by the name of Granville T. Woods. Granville T. Woods was an electrical genius that was able to harness electricity during the dawn of the electric age. And his inventions were very pivotal for the Industrial Revolution. And he was a very tenacious inventor. He understood that he had the ability to invent, but seeking equitable compensation, that was a whole different horizon. Even today, getting money for your invention, that's a whole new thing. But he was able to do that because he had lawyers that didn't look like him who believed in him. And they assisted him. And of course, they got compensation for doing that. You can't leave that out. But they did assist him and some other lawyers too. But he had two main lawyers, and they was able to open up doors for him. Now, as far as the third rail system, Howard Townsend, he was head of the electrical department at the U.S. Patent Office. When he went into private practice, he became Granville T. Woods' attorney. Okay, and so he was able to connect.
New York, Granville modernized in New York transportation.
Yes, he was in Cincinnati, but they didn't believe his electrical railway systems like he believed that they should have. So he went to New York, the corporate capital of the world. This was back in 1890. He came to New York, seeking to electrify transportation. He was in Cincinnati. He was in Cincinnati from about 1879 to 1890.
So he left Cincinnati for the same reason I did.
Well, they didn't believe in his electric railway system. So he was very tenacious. He was the type of person, he would take on the leadership role in his own life. And he did that throughout his life. He was very strong-willed. And when he had a goal in mind, he was going to reach that goal one way or another. He knew how to deal with white folks. He always knew how to deal with white folks because they would receive equity, some sort of compensation for his invention. So he had a lot of models he would demonstrate in the public to utilize for documentary purposes, as well as seeking venture capitalists. So he was receiving monies from other people, but of course, when he made money, he would have to give them a portion of that money.
Well, that's the way capitalism works. So
yes, it does.
The factors of production, but at least he was able to recognize compensation. Only he had to fight for it. I remember reading in our conversation that they didn't want to compensate him for the third rail system that basically we still use to this day.
No, they did compensate him. With Henry Townsend, he was able to introduce the invention to Albert Davis. He was head of the patent department for General Electric. See, this is how people in the white realm, they're able to open up doors where you can't. He didn't know who Albert Davis was, but Henry Townsend did. And he showed the patent that he had and he was trying to put on the market. Albert Davis amended the patent and he was able to purchase the patent. But the thing was, he wasn't giving Granville T. Woods any royalties for the patent. So Granville T. Woods, what he had to do was knock on the door again and let him know that he had an improvement. So he received compensation for the original patent that he introduced to General Electric. The improvement, he came back 3 more times with improvements. And that's as good as it was going to get for Granville T. Woods with those improved patents. So if you look at his inventions, a lot of times you'll see the same thing over and over again. Electric railway system. I was saying, why is he doing these electric railways so many times? That was the only way he was going to get compensation. He did that the same thing with the dead man's handle. That's a switch that automatically stops the train if the motorman becomes incapacitated. Yes, it is. It's called the safety apparatus. Some people call it the dead man's handle.
So that's just amazing history. And again, I see it time and time again. And I always say, you can't plagiarize this, what's been forged through fire and spiritually downloaded and forged through fire. Even though you got it, you don't got it because you didn't invent it. So you don't really know
Right.
the inner workings of it. So I've
And
seen
let me
that
say
time
this.
and time again.
Let me also say this. Granville T. Woods did not invent the original third rail patent. The original third rail patent was not able to commercialize transportation. It needed improvements. Granville T. Woods' advanced technology is what transformed and electrified transportation in New York and then worldwide. His advanced technology. He had the ability as a genius to look at any patent on the market and as a genius improve upon it. And he did that time and time again. You show them the patent list. There's over 50 patents, and a lot of his patents he just sold outright because a lot of times he was struggling financially. So he would go run into a person and he would just sell that patent outright to them just to make ends meet. So he probably had over 100 patents or more with his inventive ideas. He never received the equitable compensation to make him a wealthy man like General Electric. Even though he sold his patents to General Electric, he sold his patents to Westinghouse, he sold his patent to American Bell, which is AT&T today. So those people are the giants. They're not going to buy a patent if it doesn't have value. That shows you his past patents were revolutionary at the time, and they still are in use today.
And it's so, I mean, this is what I held up was a list at the beginning of the show, a list
That's
of
right.
Granville's patents that you blessed me with while I was
He
there.
Let me say, he also became a patent attorney. He was in court so much dealing with patent infringement, patent interference cases. He became a patent attorney himself. Amazing man.
See, you was hiding some of that history. We didn't talk about and cover that. So again, I'm in every conversation that we have, I feel like I learn and grow so much, and your passion about it is just unmatched and relentless. And I am
the spirit of Granville T. Woods lives inside of me. He lives inside of me. When you're looking at me, you're looking at Granville T. Woods.
And that's what some
when
of
I
our
speak
students,
about him, his life, he comes alive through me, through the grace of God, of course, the divine creator.
Yeah, but that's what's so important, and that's what the history that our students need to know. And when I say students, I'm talking intergenerational, all ages need to know that greatness exists within them, and they are more than what they have seen, and what they can accomplish is boundless. So that's what I try to be able to do, is unlock the history that's already been done and the legacy and leadership that they stand on. So their eyes light up. And another amazing invention that we talked about while there, and I'm sure we'll get to it, was Mr. Russell, who invented the mobile phone. We talked about him, and he was a student at the Tennessee State University, and his work. So that ties back into my work with the 1890 land grant colleges, especially the time I spent at Tennessee State. That was one of the really eye-opening things for me. And you talked about his patents and his numbers of inventions. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, the reason what that led into was Granville T. Woods' patent interference case with Thomas Edison. It dealt with a multiplex cab signal for routing, communication, and safety. And Edison had a similar system dealing with railroad communication, because they were station to station, but it was not stationed to the train itself. So if two trains were coming together, there was no way to notify them through the telegraph station. Okay, so they both had a similar system. And so Edison took him to court twice. He lost twice. And that's what made the first electrical communication of a train to station. It was the induction telegraph system, a wireless communication. It was like a relay system. And then we came into I was telling you about Jesse Russell in modern day technology. Jesse Russell from Tennessee State. He worked for Bell Labs, and it was basically in the car. And they had a problem. They gave it to him because they couldn't figure it out. A lot of times when you're in corporate America, they'll give it to a black man since they can't figure it out. They said, give it to Johnny, give it to Jones. So they gave it to Jesse Russell. And he said, oh, why don't you just take it out the car? Because this way people don't have to be in the car and communicate. They could have it, in their hand. And so, and you'll make more money. Every time somebody uses the phone, you make $1. You make $1 every time somebody picks it up.
When they gave him that assignment?
They was hoping that he would be successful, because when he becomes successful, they become successful. Like Edison, he lost against Granville T. Wood, so he wanted to hire him. But Granville T. Wood said, I don't want to work for you, because he knows the value of an invention. If I invent for Edison, then I'm not going to get any paid. I just get a paycheck. He gets money off the invention. So, but Jesse Russell worked for Bell Labs. And so they want him to be successful. So by them being successful, they'll be even more successful. He'll make a couple dollars on his weekly paycheck and maybe a bonus, but they'll make monies on and on and on and on for generations and generations to come. So
that's the difference between income and wealth.
Yeah, generational wealth. So he went to Tennessee State in that field of wireless communication. He said it was simple. And he was able to put that together over time, and he made it a reality. And that's what we're using today. The digital cell phone is invented by a black man. The GPS system is invented by a black woman. The game changes for cartridge for kids, the video games. Jerry Lawson, the father of Silicon Valley, was a black man. The godfather of Silicon Valley was Roy Clay Sr. He worked for Hewlett & Packard. Hewlett & Packard was the first tech company on Silicon Valley. There's a landmark for that. And he was the leading person in computer to lead the first 15 mega computer chip, Roy Clay Sr. Look it up. There's a book on him about his children. A lot of these children, they're speaking about it. There's a gentleman that put together the .org, .com. When you're doing on the computer, you got to use .org, .yahoo, and all that. This was done by a black man. I don't know his name right now. It escapes me. But most of the technology that was used in the past and in the present is done by a person that's melanated.
But we very seldom get the credit and almost never get the royalties from those different operations. And again,
that's right.
This is just I guess we're having a pre-Black History moment. Black History in January before we even get to February. But by it being the centennial, there'll be quite a bit going on. Can you speak a little bit about, and I know we're covering a lot of stuff, but we're going to come back. But can you speak a little bit about Carter G. Woodson, who invented Black History Month, and this being the 100-year celebration, and also the celebration of Jubilee that was held in Chicago, I believe it was. And then, yeah, let's just do that, David.
Okay, yeah. Now, Carter G. Woodson, he's an extraordinary man, an extraordinary leader. He had to work to take care of his family, so he didn't go to school till later on in life because he was working, and he went through school quickly. He was the second African American to receive a PhD from Harvard University. Okay, he knew the importance of history. As a matter of fact, when he was working on the job, he was sharing that with he used to work in the mines in Western Virginia. He was sharing with the black workers. So he was always involved teaching about Black history. There's a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. He wrote one of his first books was the history of African American contribution. So a lot of people miss sight of that book, but he wrote that book way before he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro. Now he had some college scholars that was working with him at the Wabash YMCA in Chicago. Okay, and they were known as the New Negro, and he was part of that New Negro, the talented 10th that Du Bois was speaking about so much. Okay, and so they went to the Lincoln Jubilee. And why did they call it the Lincoln Jubilee? Because of Abraham Lincoln. That makes sense. Abraham Lincoln passed the Emancipation Proclamation, followed by the 13th Amendment in 1865. 50 years after that was 1915. 18 governors wanted to showcase Black achievement in their state. Okay. And so they had this Jubilee in Chicago for 25 days. And so it was on the south side of Chicago at the Coliseum. And Carter G. Woodson was there selling posters. He was so impressed and inspired by the Lincoln Jubilee that he started the Association for the Study of Negro Life, which is now Black History, Life, and Culture. Okay? The Association for the Study of Black History, Life, and Culture is called ASALA. That's the acronym. I was the president of ASALA in the city of Detroit for 2 terms. And he also created Black History Month Week in 1923, which eventually became Black History Month in 1926. So this is the centennial year for Black History Month.
And with that, out of that Lincoln Jubilee, then came Negroes in Michigan history, because I believe it was Michigan who was supposed to showcase the achievements since emancipation.
Okay, when you're dealing with the state of Michigan, it started in the capital, Woodbridge and Ferris. He was an educator from New York who came to Michigan and became the governor. He was strong on education and also strong on civil rights. He believed that Blacks should receive civil rights. And he reached out to Black leaders from around the different counties throughout the state of Michigan. And he told them to come to this capital so they can assist in him getting legislature passed, which they did. And then they began to gather the information, prepare it, and transport it and showcase it at the Lincoln Jubilee for 25 days. It was known as the Michigan Manual of Freemen's Progress. They put together a manual of 371 pages. Unbelievable. And they had these commissioners. Mary McCoy was the field secretary. She played a major part in gathering that information as a field secretary. She was the wife of Elijah McCoy. Many people heard of Elijah McCoy, the great inventor. Okay, but they leave out Mary McCoy.
Okay.
The automatic lubricating device. This is dealing with the steam engine, no electricity. They would have to stop periodically and lubricate the engine parts. But with that automatic lubricating device, they didn't have to stop no more. And they saved a lot of money by doing that. This thing's just rolling back and forth and doing that automatic lubricating device. And they said that's how the real McCoy, because people try to imitate it, but he had the real thing. So Mary McCoy gets left out of the conversation. She gave back. As a matter of fact, she was born in the Underground Railroad. Her family was escaping from slavery. And while they was escaping from slavery, she was born. Amazing woman. And she was not formally educated. She educated herself, just like I did. And then utilizing the education and those monies that her husband was making to join the women's club, different women's clubs to help women that were coming from immigrants from the South to get them jobs and housing and so forth. And so she was queen of the women's clubs throughout the state of Michigan. She was known as the queen. So that's why they utilized who she knew. And a lot of information they probably got were from these women clubs. Don't leave that out. The women's clubs had a lot of information about their community. And there was another man that played a part as a field secretary as well. So don't leave out the part of women in gathering the information for the Michigan Manual, as well as for Dr. Carter G. Woodson organization, ASALA. And the women, they're still playing a major role in ASALA, as well as the churches around the United States from the very inception of Black churches in America.
Can
you
speak about the evolution of the Michigan Manual?
Yeah, the Michigan Manual was John Green. He's a mentor of mine. When I came to the city of Detroit from New York, I hit the ground running, and I connected with historians, and he was one of them that I looked up to. He was an elderly man, and my spirit and his spirit connected. So we were kindred spirits. And he told me the story how he worked for a congressman in Lansing, Michigan, and he went to the library, and there was a woman named Lola Colby. She introduced him to the book, and he asked her to take out the book, and she said, "Nobody asked me to take out the book before. I'll let you take out the book." So he recognized that it needed to be edited. It needed editing, and it needed an index, not editing. It needed an index because it didn't have an index. He indexed the book, and he got permission to index the book, and then he republished the book, and he called it Negroes in Michigan History. The original name was the Michigan Manual of Free Man's Progress. Okay, let me make myself clear. But since he republished the book Negroes in Michigan, he did that twice, in 1968 and 1986. Then 2000 comes along. He's much older. He didn't have the wherewithal, all the strength to do that. So me and my queen, Glendoria, we assisted him by republishing the book, and it was $10,000 for us and $5,000 for John Green. And we republished that book 2 years ago. John Green died about a month ago. And I had the opportunity to interview John Green, connect him to Valerie Marvin, who's in charge of education and history. She embraced the project. She's familiar with the book, and she was getting ready to interview him, but he passed. So they're having a monument, honorarium commemoration for John Green, and I am seeking funding to reintroduce the book and do volume number 2 with the descendants of the book. I have some descendants. We want to go out throughout the state of Michigan. We need funding to do that. And I'm looking for funding to help us go out to different areas throughout Michigan to create a tracking system with the descendants in the book and those that's even not in the book and that should be in the book to do volume 2.
And what does the Michigan Negroes in Michigan history reveal about black land ownership? Because one of the things that happened, Michigan was one of the largest bastions of home ownership and land for black folks as a result of them migrating to the north from the south, moving from the plantation and then working at the plant. And a lot of those folks were not well educated, but were able to build wealth in spite of due to working at the automotive plants.
Well, you got to go back to the history of Michigan. There's the Northwest Ordinance before Michigan was just a territory, and you had blacks not only from the South. When you say blacks, enslaved blacks, free blacks, they see an opportunity to come to the Northwest Territory. When the Erie Canal opened, people from New York and New Jersey came down because they see an opportunity in that same space, Northwest Territory, in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, to accumulate land for a little of no cost, but it was backbreaking work. You got a frontier, and you got to make that frontier into a farm. This was an agrarian society at that time. The Industrial Revolution was just coming on, was slightly coming on. What brought on the racism, because when blacks and white was working together as in the agrarian society in the Northwest Territory, they wasn't practicing slavery and those things, those sentimental things with slavery and how people looked at each other. They came to provide for their families, so they're willing to work together. You got a shovel, I got a shovel. We're building a home, houses and spaces and churches and schools for our community. But when the industrial age came in, and you're talking about jobs, mass production of jobs, that's where the racism came in. You see, money.
One of the things
we agreed on racism and practices in the major cities in Lansing, Grand Rapids. The cities are here, but originally it wasn't like that.
And I think that's important because what you talked about is everybody working together at that point.
Yes.
And earlier you had mentioned about Granville T. Woods being able to work across the racial lines. Again, I think the racism was a tool. And even today, the tool is starting to lose its luster. It's something that we've always been aware of. But in today's society now, I believe the majority community is realizing they're really not a part of the majority. and that's why they're having such a hard time accepting
Mhm.
all these different things that are occurring. And we are seeing, I mean, for the first time in a long time, there was a Caucasian woman in Minnesota last week that got killed protesting, and it's just amazing where we are today. It's almost surreal, and now there is doesn't appear to be a racial divide as far as the level of discrimination that is being poured out. And when I say discrimination, I mean folks' benefits are being cut, jobs are being cut with no concern about race in particular. But whenever it's rough like that, it always disproportionately impacts the black community. But because the black community has withstood and resisted so much, this is not really outside of the normal for us. So the adjustment isn't quite as big and drastic as the majority community is feeling right now. So I think
Mhm.
ultimately it pushes us an unintended consequences, basically just the have and the have nots.
Yes. Let me go back to land ownership and for Michigans that look like us. A lot of those farmers, they created wealth through their farming ability, and they went to other businesses, home ownership, or any business that they thought they can have, can basically do, has the capacity to do. By you saving their money, they were very frugal, and they start going into other areas in society by accumulating wealth with their farms. And you'll see that time and time again that they didn't remain just as farm, even though there was farming. Uh, they began to go into other business, helping people go into other business as well. So let me point that out. Uh,
And
and that
there was a
was
strong
dealing, yeah.
connection as well with the Native American community as well, is because I believe that Michigan has two 1994 tribal colleges. So the indigenous community, the African American community, all worked together in conjunction in Michigan prior to the Industrial Revolution. But then, as the Industrial Revolution came online, it sort of um, exacerbated, or a lot of folks moved just for the opportunity to be able to work. And all of that was an opportunity to build wealth. And right now, that wealth has been under extreme attack, which is probably a lot of the connection that we have as far as heirs property and reconsideration of value. And the city of Detroit in particular, a lot of black home ownership has been lost, a lot of soil and land contamination. Uh, and it's amazing that the level of water and lead that you all are experiencing in a community that thrived in the Industrial Revolution. And now some parts of it is definitely being rebuilt, and but on whose back, and the different services that people are being charged for and losing their property, which is land theft at one of the highest levels in the country.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, a crisis bring people together. During the Depression in the 1930s, black people was on the soup line, white people was on, different immigrants was on the soup line. And this was the time where the unions really began to formulate, because they began to realize by joining hands together, they can break corporate America down, because they had company unions that wasn't serving the workers any the workers' rights. They were overworked and underpaid. So they realized they had to come together. When a crisis comes, we're faced with a crisis, and once again we're faced with a crisis together, and we see each other as one. And when we come together, things can happen. Definitely things can happen. We unify. There's strength. Nothing gets done without work. You have what you call wildcat strikes. That means everybody gonna shut down. Nobody working today. It's wildcat shots. And if everybody stop working in America, those billionaires can't make any money. We make 20, 30, $40 an hour, so forth, or less. So we may lose money, but they losing billions of money. So they want us to work. So if we show them that we not going to go to work and stand together, we can get some things done. We can show them that we have power too.
Do you see that as a solution for today for people coming
Yes,
together? And
most definitely. Nothing gets done without work. When you join hands together and you call a shutdown strike, and that's sometime it goes across the board, all unions come together. And we at a time now, that's what we need to get the attention, because that's all they're concerned about is profit and gain. They don't care about, we're just a number to them. So once they don't see that profit and gain, they say, wait a minute. We got to find out what these people want and find a way to, work something out with them, and they will work something out if we stand together and unify and shut it down. And that's what
so
the
you
ball
said,
plays did.
so
The
you're
ball
saying the
plays did
green.
that under the dome when they had LeBron in them. They said, we're not, there's too many black people getting killed. We're not playing ball. Did you notice they stopped killing black people for that time period? It kind of shut down. When the ball says
It
that we
was
ain't
so
down with
brief
that.
and so quick. It wasn't sustainable. But to your point,
No,
that is a good point.
that's the thing. Sustainability. They're going to give you a little something to keep the motor running again. So you got to be mindful of that. So while you got it, when you get them, you get all you can. Get all you can while you can get it. Get all you can while you get it, because it's just a momentarily. You're going to have people that don't really. It's going to start up again. It's just what do you call it? They don't. It's not really something they really want to do. And some people used to call it a sham. This is just a sham, man. It's a sham. So they're going to do it as a sham just to get you to back to work. So get what you can while you can get it at that time. But it takes a crisis for people to come together from all ethnic groups, all levels in society, because you got black who are elitists and blacks who are not so educated, and they look down on those people that's not educated. Like, what's wrong with your problem? I pull myself up. What is your problem? So you got people that look like us think the same way. So the thing is, when you have a crisis, it hits home with everybody, and that brings people together. And people who are white, who have that academia, that elitist, and this hitting them as well, they got to look at the working class white as well. So they got to realize that we're all on the same ship together, and we got to work this out. And it'll work itself out once we join hands. Yes.
So you talked about the black elitist class and the work of Carter G. Woodson and the 100th anniversary of Jubilee. How do you
Mm-hmm.
bring all of that together with the work that you're doing with your historical foundation, with the history, making folks know black folks' contribution, and then in building generational wealth and moving forward? What do you see as a solution?
It's no one thing. Is you got to do it from it's multi ways how you can do it, be more effective from a broader perspective. Back during the talented 10th, these were people who broke through the barriers of discrimination. Okay, those people were supposed to reach back in the community and raise up people and assist them. That was their goal. Not only to do well for your family, but reach back for those who have been forgotten about. Okay, that's what the church was about too. It was also speaking about the social gospel, not just the spiritual gospel, which is important, but the social gospel in the community. It was the foundation, cornerstone within the community in different areas. Okay, but from a broader perspective, from where I stand as a historian, okay, when you speak about history, you also should speak about mental health and clinical therapy, because we got intergenerational trauma from birth to death. So you need people who are subject matter experts that can help and provide services for those people. People need advanced and basic math and reading skills. Okay? We got people in our community who are retired that can do that, make that a possibility. You got people that's dealing with holistic health and healing, nutritional well-being, exercise. We have people in our community that can do that. So what we have to do is bring these people together and create a wellness center, a platform where people can go and get that nutritional health in all areas. Little boys and little girls can get mentors. They should be there as well. You have parents that care, but you also need mentors, little boys and girls. That should be a part of that space. So by going to those places of healing, and we can all be, it will put our community in a better place. Because by giving back, this is about giving back within our community, giving back to uplift our community in those areas. That's going to be a blessing for us. Not just praying and going to church, but actually playing an active role in participating it and forming alliances with community organizations, educational and cultural organizations to create an alliance with those leaders and those people to participate in those things. We're talking about fraternities, sororities. You got these professional people all well off. They're not millionaires and billionaires, but some of them are, that has the subject matter expertise to assist in that matter. We're not talking about something on a daily basis, but we can have people in those areas to assist. My wife, she's a therapist. She knows other people in the area. If she can't make it, another expert can help as well. But they gotta, the key thing is love. They gotta have the love in their hearts to do that. Nobody can make you do anything. This is something that you want to do for your community. Because at the end of the day, you can't take anything with you in your hand when you leave here, but you can leave something very precious behind.
So you talked about the obligation of the talented tips to reach back and get the rest of us. Uh, do you think that they've done that, or do you think that we have failed in that particular aspect? Because I believe that a lot of our institutions, our legacy institutions and organizations, have actually failed because we shouldn't be here today. These students and these children should not have to be fighting the same fight we fought 60 years ago. And as opposed to having effective systemic change and creating effective systemic opportunities, as opposed to uh, just tokens and then people being uplifted and leadership being self-serving and not able to get the funding and education. And right now, I think we're at a really, really critical state, not only with housing, but first and foremost, food security. Who can worry about building wealth when you're hungry? So basic food security and education. I think all of those things that you talked about, the trauma, in order for us to be able to heal and have a wellness community, this is all a part of the wealth. Um, and more importantly than wealth is quality of life. And the quality of life has been very diminished from housing, again, to food sovereignty and food security, mental health. There's so much trauma that's been passed down through the community, and it's a multi-pronged attack or a multi-pronged strategy. But you have to acknowledge the trauma in order to get to the healing. You mentioned the church and the faith-based community being more than some place to go on Sundays and worship. There's a social aspect and component, and historically, the religious-based community has led the community. Right now, the community lacks cohesion as far as a voice. And again, some of the talented tenth have made it, but there's so many that haven't made it. And as a collective, there's so much work. And you talked about the work that needs to be done. And again, there's so much work. Where does the work start, in your opinion?
Okay. The community looks toward the leaders. Uh, there's always been leaders around. Dr. Reverend Leon Sullivan, truly a great man, and he did some great things in Philadelphia. I encourage your audience to look at this great leader in Philadelphia. He lived a long life and he did some great things for the community within his church as a leader. And we always have leaders in our community from the moment we came to this enslaved in this society. We was here before the Europeans came, but that's another story. But when we came in bondage, there was always leaders in our community. Usually it were ministers that we looked up to, you know. And so there's always been people like that in the community. A lot of stories haven't been told. I remember Harlem Prep. I come from New York, Harlem. I grew up in Harlem, and they had Harlem Prep, and it was educating the young people, middle school, high school students to go on and go into advanced education. And that went on for 3, 4, 5 years, but eventually it wasn't sustainable. So the people in the community did get together, and they uplifted their communities. There's a lot of stories throughout every state and different communities in every state that had people like that uplifted our community. You don't know them, I don't know them. So, but I would encourage the people in the audience to start looking at people in their pioneers in their community that deal with social upliftment. Okay, religious upliftment. Begin to not look at people out of state, right in your hometown, and maybe your relative, your neighbor. We got people right in our community to we need to take a closer look at and hold their names up so they can be known in our community. Get a street name after them, some kind of hall name after them. Somebody that might graduated from the University of Michigan or some school in your area, there should be a hall named after them or a place in a certain part of the school so people can know that they were here and they played a major role in uplifting society. And so what needs to be done is more. We need more work to be done in that area. We need more leaders to take on responsibility in those areas. A lot of these leaders need to put aside their ego. Let me say that again. Put aside your ego. Take the mirror out of your hand. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us coming together in solidarity for an objective that's going to raise the community consciousness to another level and will provide services to that community. And that's what we need now for those leaders to begin to enact that, initiate that with their sororities, fraternities. Just don't have parties and yak, yak, yak. Let's do something meaningful for the whole community. I'm not a sorority brother. I may not be a part of your frack, but you look like me and you know your community needs help. So you need to do something in that space that's going to help impact the entire community.
I think you said a mouthful
and
there.
They have the ability to do that. Yeah.
I definitely think you said a mouthful about the fraternities and the sororities and the leadership and the community. It really can't be self-serving, but a lot of the legacy organizations at this point, everybody is moving in fear and very reluctant to speak out and speak up. I've never seen such fear in my lifetime of people being able to speak up and speak for themselves. And it's all related to funding. And it's it is economic warfare, which again goes back to generational wealth. And I love what you said about heroes in your own community. This is something that my eyes has been open to as we travel the country with our Outside the Barn series, touring the 1890 land grant colleges, doing work with heirs property, and beyond the 1890 land grant colleges is the whole land grant ecosystem, which now I am a part of, and that's been amazing. That's over 50 plus states and universities, as well as the 1890 land grant HBCU, historically black colleges, as well as the 34 1994 tribal colleges. So being able to go to all these different places, and just like your book in Michigan, I'm learning about stories and heirs property and legacies all over the country that have been stolen or taken by several different means. And this has been rather eye-opening because it's just not about people not being able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's about systemic, intentional theft. I mean, we're even witnessing it today in real time. Uh, Manifest destiny has
Yeah.
never been so obvious. It used to be just we took whatever we want in the United States. Now we're taking whatever we want around the world. It doesn't matter if you got it and we want it. We coming to get it, and because we should have it, and you don't deserve it or know how to use it properly. But it all
Right.
gets down to resources, and it all the resources come from the land, and they're not making any
Right.
more. So all of us are interconnected, and it's been a pleasure for me to. I mean, every conversation we have, I get some new information, and my little brain just starts to bubble. So I'm looking forward to the work that we will be doing in Michigan with our heirs property and coming back. But the only caveat I got is I have no plans on coming back to Michigan until y'all get over at least 40 degrees because it get way too cold up there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, well, when as a historian and going to a lot of programs throughout the year, the Kwanzaa program was just a program we just had December 26th for 7 days. And if you look at the Kwanzaa principles, there's 7 principles. That's a blueprint. That's basically a blueprint to practice throughout the year. That's something that we can do in our community. There's an old saying: the cavalry's not going to come save us. They basically got us where they want us to be at. So we got to take on the onus and the responsibility to participate in changing that dynamic. The first principle is dealing with unity, and then the self-determination. Then you have something called Ujima, collective work and responsibility, Yajama, cooperative economics. So those 4 principles on its own: unity, self-determination, collective responsibility, cooperative economics. Those things that we practice, those principles throughout the year, we can uplift our community.
Well, you've definitely taken a stand and made and had an impact. You and your beautiful wife. I know she does a lot in the mental health field, and she does a lot of
Mhm.
advocating mental health and in the court system and providing counseling. Your
Yes.
historical work is been amazing. I like the connectivity. I appreciate the invites. You have invited me to a couple of things to be able to speak at and participate this year, and we're working on fitting those into our calendar. It all fits into our liberation through valuation,
Mhm.
where soul meets
Yes.
soil, and it comes as a spiritual connection, and it brings everything and everybody together. And the goal is to leave nobody behind. And so many
Right.
of us, and that's cross community. You talked about the inner workings with the patents with Mr. Woods, but also
Mhm.
prior to in the agrarian community, everybody working together. And then right there in Michigan, in particular, during the Depression, where black folks weren't able to get loans ever, and ended up bringing Cadillac out of bankruptcy and saving a whole institution that's still moving today. So we
Right.
have a lot of resources in our community. It's just being able to plug in and plug into each other, trust each other, and work together cooperatively for the future. And there are no, it's not about me or you, it's about us collectively,
That's,
and that
that's the key
responsibility.
thing.
And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
do you
Yes.
have
So
any
many.
closing words that you'd like to say or share?
Yes. Well, first, I'd like to thank you, Thaddeus and Joyce, for connecting us to share uh, this information that I have. Little information. No one knows it all. Only a fool. We do what we can do while we're here. We have the strength to do that. Uh, I think once you become more matured, that's the key word, and less self-centered, you begin to look at it from a broader perspective. I mean, I got 30 shoes. When am I going to give one away? Okay. When are you going to give a shoe away? When are you going to give a suit away? You got 50 suits in your closet. Somebody's out there without a suit, a coat. So think about somebody other than yourself, somebody that's in need. Just look around. Come out your church and see these other people. You got people going to church. They look all fine and dandy. And that's great, going to church. But beyond that, look outside of the church. What can you do outside of the church based upon what you have? A lot of these people are subject matter experts. And we need to join hands together to build wilderness centers, a platform where we can heal people in our community, and get your colleagues to do the same thing and join hands together. And that's something that we can do. And I believe we will do, and we have done in the past. And we're going to continue to do, because we have that spirit of survival, resilience, and accomplishment. Given the opportunity, we will always shine. Without us, at the core of American existence is an enslaved man, woman, and child. That is an African family. We are still here, and we will always shine.
Well, with that being said, I just want to say thank you again for taking our time to talk with me or spend time with me when I was in Michigan. That time was very important to me. It was the holiday season. Things were really just moving kind of slow, and you opened up your home and just all of the great work and pieces. And I'm going to read these books that you gave me. I'm just thankful and grateful and looking forward to us collaborating and working together in the future. If you all like this particular radio show or podcast, please like, share, and definitely subscribe. As we just talked about, we are in a fundraising mode, and there is no mission without money. David does a lot of work, and he sells a lot of things in order to fund his mission. We are working on contracts, doing reconsideration of value to fund our mission. So again, there is no mission without money, and the purpose and the passion is definitely there, as evidenced by Mr. Head in this particular episode. So I'm going to close out. And again, thank you.
Can I say something?
Working together.
Yeah, I want to say, I want to give you my foundation's website. I'm a 501c3 since 2006.
Okay.
Graham T. Woods was my flagship project, and I was going out speaking. People said, you need to start a foundation back in 2004. So I did in 2006. And so as a 501c3, my website is davidlheadfoundation.com, www.davidlhead, lowercasing, davidlheadfoundation.com. That's my name, David L. Head. And so my email address is, once again, DLLH, that's my initial, foundation, DLH foundation, the number 51 at gmail.com.
So now you all know how to get in touch with Mr. David L. Head. Again, thank you, David, for taking our time. I look forward to us spending some more time together this year and getting some things done.
Yeah.
And I will definitely be in touch. And I enjoyed my time in Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Toledo while I was in the area. And it was an amazing time. It was just too cold. But anyway, that's why I got a coat and a hat and some gloves. So we were able to get there. And Happy New Year. And please give my regards to your lovely wife.
Moving, don't get left behind. Present